As we've mentioned before, it's his first in-studio in Los Angeles appearance for this man, so I want to give him the proper introduction. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner by way of the Northern Iowa University and the Amsterdam Admirals as well, getting set to call on Westwood One the Saturday night divisional playoff game between the Rams and the Cowboys, in between two different NFL game day mornings. None other than Kurt Warner, everybody. What do you think?
That was pretty good. And you got all the love in there.
Father, grandfather.
Oh, there you go. Grandfather, two.
Of two?
Of two, yeah.
Two
I
of
got
them
two
now.
now. Yep, got a little grandson that came about 4 months ago. So it's
How great
awesome.
is that, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Because you get to hand them back, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean,
You get
they're
to-
there almost every day, but then, yes, you can bring ice cream at 8, 9 o'clock at night. And then
You do that?
Oh, yeah, I do that. We just did it the other day, of course.
9 o'clock at night,
makes
ice
that
cream.
makes Poppy. I'm Poppy. That makes Poppy their favorite. So yeah, I do that. Sorry,
Poppy
Jesse.
Warner football.
Wow. Hey now.
Okay, so let's get into the games this weekend. Let's start with the Rams and the Cowboys, because I can't wait for your piece on game day morning. You with McVay and Goff.
Yeah.
I asked this question of Charles Davis, hour one. Your level of confidence in Goff going into this game against the Hot Boys would be what, Kurt?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in Jared Goff, but I will say that I think a lot depends on the guys in front of him. I don't think his forte is when he's getting quick pass rush and getting the ball out of his hands quickly. What I love about him is when they do their play action and his second level throws, his ability to get the chunk throws and the big plays. I think he's, almost as good as anybody in the National Football League at doing that. But, that's where the dilemma is, right? Their offensive line struggled. They've got some older guys up there, struggled down the stretch. And you got the Hot Boys coming to town. That's what they're all about, is pressure on the quarterback, disrupting the quarterback. But I do like Jared Goff. I feel really good about where the Rams are going to be after this bye week. Second time around with Goff and McVay in the playoffs. I like their chances.
Okay. And Gurley is his readiness is the key here, right? I mean, because that's how you get the pressure off of Goff, and obviously the running game.
That's how you get the big plays. Is they play action more than anybody in the league, and so you have to start with running the football. And I mean, even we watched the game last week against Seattle. Is that Seattle didn't have a lot of success running it, but when did they have success? Play action. Right? When they got those linebackers and the speed of the Cowboys defense, they want to attack everything, and they give you some second-level throws. It's what the Rams do better than anybody. So to me, that is the area to watch in this game, is not just rush yards, but the ability to get those guys to pull up, and then Jared Goff hitting over the top of those linebackers, the big plays.
And the Cowboys know this. So what's their adjustment, do you think, coming into this game?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you have a huge adjustment. Is that you still have to stop Todd Gurley first. That is the goal, and so you have to stop the run and hope, like against Seattle last week, they don't make that many big plays, or your guys on the back end make up for it. But you can't play tentative against Todd Gurley. He is you've seen him in person. When you look at him from the waist down, I mean, it is a man that comes downhill. He comes downhill hard. He's not easy to tackle, so you have to attack it. But you got to get some negative plays. You got to keep him behind the sticks. You got to get Jared Goff to hold the football so those guys can come after him. But yeah, Dallas knows this, and so we talk about it every week. The formula for the Cowboys: play good defense, run the football, and keep it a one-possession game, to me, is how they win this game. I don't think they're going to score with them. I don't think this is going to be a blowout for the Dallas Cowboys. They have to keep it close and then hope their young quarterback can make more plays down the stretch.
And so Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show, of all your vast experiences of what you've been able to put out there and obviously get into Canton because of it, I mean, it's difficult to ask you what makes a quarterback struggle in his first playoff opportunity, since obviously we all know what you did with yours.
Right.
But Goff did last year, and hoping, as you said, it's his second time around. You've got Mahomes trying to be the only quarterback who's not been in the playoffs before to win his first playoff game. He owned 3 last week. What do you make of what Goff's able to do now that he had last year? and what Mahomes will be able to do without having done it before?
Well, I think there's a couple factors. And first, you look at Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is built as a drop-back quarterback, very much like I was. So I believe the start of this game is going to be crucial. Is you can feel pressure when there's one thing you kind of hang your hat on. I've got to be able to get back in the pocket and hold the football and make throws down the field. Things didn't start well for him last year, and they could never really get out of their own way in that game, and he struggled. So I believe how they start will determine a lot of how Jared Goff plays, especially because, you try to ignore it, but people have talked down the stretch. He hasn't played very well. He's not playing his best football going into the playoffs. So you feel and hear that pressure. The different thing about Patrick Mahomes to me is that he's got more hats that he can put on. He's not just a drop back guy that has to stand in the pocket and throw down the field. He's a playmaker. And if everything's not going great in the pocket, he'll run out of the pocket and he'll throw a 45-yard laser on a rope, and that can change the complexion of the game. So I think he's got more to work with than a Jared Goff. Jared Goff needs more things to go right for him than Patrick Mahomes does to have a good game. And so I do believe Patrick Mahomes is going to come out and play like he's played all year and have a great game. The question is, can he get enough help to beat a really hot Colts team?
Yeah, the Colts are really hot, man.
They are.
What's happened with them? What can you pinpoint what has happened with them?
I mean, I think the biggest, obviously we know Andrew Luck has played great, but to me, this is all about their offensive line. I mean, their offensive line, going back and watching the tape against the Texans last week, J.J. Watt, they didn't even get close to Andrew Luck the entire game. And it's not just Quentin Nelson. I know we want to talk about the draft pick. He's been great. But it's really across the board. They are playing really, really good football. And when you watch this team, when they run the football and protect the quarterback, they win, which they've done a lot, especially down the stretch. When they don't do that very well, they lose. And so you got a couple good pass rushers for the Chiefs defense. When you say they don't have much going for them on defense, but they can rush the passer. They can get after Andrew Luck, and that to me is where this game is going to be won and lost. Offensive line of the Colts against that defensive line of the Chiefs.
And of all the tape that you've watched, Kurt Warner, the best matchup for a team this weekend. When you see everything, just look at all four of them. There's 8 teams. Which team do you think out of the 8 teams is like, you know what? They've got the best matchup for them to succeed in divisional playoff weekend.
I'm going with the Saints. I believe the Saints do. They played them once, beat them by almost 40. Had their way, big plays across the board in the dome, a bye week for Sean Payton and Drew Brees against a team that they're seeing for a second time. I know Nick Foles has been incredible, and that team has turned it around with him. But if there's one team that I think has the best chance to come out of this weekend with a victory, I'm saying the Saints.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's talk about Foles a little bit, because a lot of people are comparing what we're seeing from him to your ascension, your story that you can't make up. I'm sitting on my chair on game day morning, so I can see your reaction to when people bring this up. Mariucci brought that up, like, you can make a movie out of this sort of thing. And the look you kind of gave him was like, where's the Kurt Warner story?
We're working on it. Working on it.
But I could see what was going on in your head at the time. The Kurt Warner story's been in the making. It's not easy to do. But Foles, you can clearly see, though, the lines that are being drawn. What was going on in your mind back in 99 that you think is actually at play with Foles right now, do you think?
I think the biggest thing is that nobody knows what you feel about yourself, or nobody knows the circumstances you were in. Because people always look at my story, like you said, it's a movie, sat on the bench for 4 years, got cut, worked in a grocery store, played all that stuff. But I look back and tell people, the funny thing is, why I kept going and believed that I could, do what I did in the NFL was because every time I played football, I was successful. 1 year in college, player of the year in our, conference. I played 3 years in arena football, was the best quarterback in arena football. Played 1 year in Europe, best quarterback statistically in Europe that 1 year. So every time I had played, I knew I could be successful. The problem was nobody else knew that. So when they saw me, they're like, who is this joker? He was stocking shelves. There's no way he can be any good. But in my mind, it was like, you're crazy. I know I can play. Give me an opportunity, put me between the lines, and I'll show you. And I really believe that's what goes on in Nick Foles' head, is that people want to look at him, for different things. And, he got a chance with the Rams and it didn't work out, or now he's a backup. He can't come. And I think he just basically says, I can play football. I know I can play football, and everybody else wants to write a different narrative. But just go back and look. When I've played, I've been 27-2, his first run with Philly. I mean, you don't just fall into 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions over that period of time. Then he wins the Super Bowl last year, and we're still saying the same thing. Well, yeah, but he was still a backup, right? I mean, but I just think that's the parallel is I believed I could play the game, put the ball in my hands, and I could do what I've always done. And I believe Nick Foles says the same thing to himself.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's a powerful, potent metric that is an intangible, obviously. Yep. But you think just because the Saints have seen him before, it's a week off, it's that building, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and I think they're the better team. And I even think Chicago was the better team last week outside of the quarterback position. I thought Nick played well in the moment. And although Mitch made some great throws down the stretch, he missed some opportunities early in which I think they could have put that game away. This time around, Drew doesn't miss those opportunities very often. And in that building with those fans, like I said, with a week to really prepare, I think there's too many big plays out there for the Saints with the playmakers they have that I just think this is going to be really, really hard. But let's just say the defense of the Philly is really what's carried it. As much as we want to talk about Foles, the defense has been what's carrying them. 18 points a game since Nick Foles took over. Do you see that happening in the Dome? I don't see that happening in the Dome. I mean, there's going to be 30-plus on the board for the Saints. Now we'll really get to see Nick Foles and the Magic. Can he outscore Drew Brees?
Then you saw how Sean Payton brought in the trophy and $200,000 in cash.
I did not see it, but I did. I did hear about it. Yes.
Right. So what's the most off-the-wall motivational tool a coach has ever used with you? Like, did Vermeil bust out $200,000?
No, I never saw anything like that. Man, that's a good one. I don't remember anything really crazy that anybody has done. He brought in Joe Frazier one time to speak. Vermeil did.
Vermeil brought in Smoking Joe?
Yeah, to speak to us one time. I remember, one of the things that I remember maybe more than anything else is kind of getting us ready was Howie Long came and talked to our team in '99. And he talked to us and gave the speech about how when he was a rookie, he came in and they went to the Super Bowl. And, he was kind of like, this is easy. This NFL said, we're going to be in the Super Bowl, the rest of my career. And then he looked at us and goes, I never went back. And I think that was the one motivating thing that really stuck with me. Like, you realize, and we had a great team there in St. Louis with the greatest show on turf and all that talent. We won 1 Super Bowl, and we were fortunate to get back to 2, but, just 2. When you think you could keep this thing together and you can run and you can get all these opportunities. I mean, Drew Brees, I think, is a great example of that, right? I mean, he's done everything you could possibly do in this game. He's been to 1 Super Bowl in his entire career. And that, to me, was probably the greatest motivator for me is don't miss this opportunity. You've got a great chance right here, whether it's to get $250,000 or whatever. Sure. I think as a player, you go, these things are tough to come by. We've got another prime opportunity to do that if I'm Drew Brees of the Saints. And that, to me, was what motivated me more than anything.
Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Ask him the poll question, even though I know how he's going to answer it, but I go for it anyway.
Kurt, which QB do you want to see get their first Super Bowl ring? Goff, Dak, Patrick Mahomes, Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that I think everybody should have the opportunity and be it a quarterback. Every quarterback should have the opportunity to play and win a Super Bowl. But, I mean, come on, Phillip Rivers. I mean, how do you not with all that he's done? And, again, the quality of person that he is what I love so much about Phillip Rivers. And he does it right, and he competes, and he's been fun to watch, and he's played at the highest of levels for so long. Yeah, I want to see Phillip have that opportunity to compete in that game. When I sat down with him and we've, run the interview numerous times, but, just asked him, how often do you think about that? Because, when you're growing up in your front yard, you think about winning the Super Bowl and you think about, man, what am I going to say? Or what am I? And he goes, I still dream about that. I still watch guys every year going, okay, what did they say on the podium? What am I going to say? And so, it's just like a little kid going, man, I just want that moment to be able to say whatever it is I say and have my moment to be on that podium. And, of all those guys, I hope they get to experience it one day. But, if I had to pick one, I'm picking Phillip Rivers.
He's got to win in Foxborough.
Yes, yes, he does.
He's got to win in Foxborough.
Yeah.
And I know the Chargers all year long have been winning in spots you don't expect them to win. Pittsburgh being one, the short week Thursday night in Kansas City being just another. And that wasn't being played in the middle of the summer either. I mean, it was a chilly night. We're expecting to see a ton of cold weather. We all know, you played most of your games inside of a dome or inside of warm weather.
Yeah.
Do you consider this the end of the trail potentially for an assignment?
Well, I don't yet. Because I really do believe this is one of Phillip Rivers' best teams, complete teams that he's with. And I believe that the Patriots are down a notch. I know they're undefeated at home, and you know the scenario out in New England. It's tough to beat them. But I believe this is one opportunity where they can be gotten. The question to me is, as you mentioned, the weather. Because I say it all the time. I played in domes. I played in Arizona. There is no way to prepare in 1 week for weather. To prepare to play in snow or to play in cold and get yourself acclimated to that. There's a story that I hear kind of through the grapevine. We went out and played, when I was in Arizona, we went out and played New England one year. And the night before the game, a bunch of snow dropped and it was cold. Mm-hmm. And our media people, their box was right next to the box for the coaches of the New England Patriots. And our media people said when the coaches came up there, they heard high-fiving and cheering and all the stuff going on from the box. And this was before the game even started. And somehow it got leaked out that the reason they were high-fiving was because when they looked down at the field, all their guys were out on the field warming up. All of our guys were over by the heater, huddling up, trying to stay warm. And they're like, hey, we got this one. This one's easy. And they did. They blew us out. They beat us by almost 40 in that game. And so that is the hardest thing, is that mentally you can be tough, but you're still cold. And I always say as a quarterback, we do nothing in a game, right? We drop back 7 steps and throw the football. So there's nothing to do to stay warm when it's cold outside. And so sometimes you have to change your routine. You got to sit over by the heater, and it's just different. And so if the weather's decent, I really believe the Chargers have a chance to win this game. If the weather starts to drop or there's any kind of elements, I think it's probably one that you can chalk up for the Patriots again.
I'm part of that group of, I guess, pundits, or as you said, pundits, right? Okay.
Yeah, pundits.
That believes the Chargers are equipped to do this. Mm-hmm. They're equipped to do it. As I said, they've been winning on the road. They've won in every time zone, including London, okay? Yeah. But they have to.
The ultimate but.
Well, they have to avoid the Foxborough trap, which is pre-snap penalties, which is that third down penalty when you're just about to get off the field, or the offsides to turn a Brady third and 8 into third and manageable. Right. The not hopping on the loose ball when you could have hopped on the loose ball. I mean, it happens to almost every team that goes into Foxborough in January, not named the Patriots. Yeah. And those are the things. I mean, if you're Anthony Lynn, that's got to be something you're constantly pounding, right? I mean,
I think you can constantly pound it, but I think it all stems back to the lore of the Patriots at home, is that there's so much pressure to play perfect, right? Like, man, we can't make a mistake. We can't do anything wrong if we're going to win this football game here. And ultimately, that's what always happens for a player. When they try to press and push and play perfect, they make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so how do you avoid that? How can you mentally push that? I mean, you're Phillip Rivers, right? And what's he going to hear? I think back to the Chiefs week, right? They said, hey, the streak of however many games that the Chiefs have beat, and then he came out afterwards and he goes, I tried to deny that streak all week long and tried to convince myself it wasn't there. I mean, what's he going to hear all week? Right. You've never beaten a Tom Brady-led Patriots. You've never beaten them. You haven't beaten them. And so he's got to hear that all week. And so somehow, some way, you got to shove that back behind you where you just tune it out and go, hey, it's just another game. But we know it's so hard to do that. The stakes. Everybody's talking not just about that, but they're talking about, is this Phillip Rivers' last chance, best chance to get to us? I mean, there's so many things going on in this game. And then you've got to go out and push it all out and play a really good football game without mistakes in Foxborough against Tom Brady on the other sideline. It sounds easy to talk about that stuff. Much more difficult to do.
Okay. And Irv is going to, I'm assuming Irv's going to be in the building tomorrow night. Dallas at Rams.
Yeah.
You'll be calling the game on Westwood 1. Does that mean you're not going to pick the game on game day morning because you're calling it on the radio? I don't think that's
Absolutely not. I'm picking the game.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm picking the game.
So then who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl?
Super Bowl?
Who's going to be a
championship
game?
I believe the Rams are going to win this game.
Okay.
I just, again, when I get to the playoffs, sometimes I look at it and go, who has more ways to win a football game?
Mm-hmm.
Because I always believe you have to be able to win different ways come playoff time. And, Dallas is going to run the football, and Rams aren't very good at stopping the run. They're going to play good defense. But the one thing the Cowboys don't do is score a lot of points. They hardly ever score a lot of points to put a game away early. They played, I think, 13 games this year, including the playoffs, that were one-possession games, 13 of them. And so this is going to be a close football game. Mm-hmm. And with the Rams' ability to get big plays and score points, even if they don't play their best game, I think they're going to be in there at the end and have a chance to make plays. And I think they have enough playmakers. But I could also see this thing getting away from the Cowboys. And the Rams winning it fairly big.
So Rams at Saints, based on your previous thought about the matchup for the Saints. And in the AFC?
Man, in the AFC, I'm going with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, again, until they show me that somebody can stop them. 26 points is the least amount of points that they've had all year long, and that was against the Arizona Cardinals. Everything else is 29, 30. They're going to find a way to score points. As much as I like the Colts, I'm going with the Chiefs at home. And then the other side, I really think this one is up for grabs. I'm not actually even sure who I'm picking yet. As always, hard to go against the Patriots.
Yes, it is.
But if things are even, come Sunday morning, I may be one of those guys
you're Charger-ish?
that goes Phillip Rivers and the Chargers in this one. I want to see how the weather plays out, but that one to me, I think, has an opportunity to be really, really close if the conditions allow, it to be more of an even footing for both teams.
And before I let you go, Kurt Warner, I want to give you this platform because I'm always appreciative of you coming on this show, certainly here in person. And I have nothing but love for you and your awesome wife, Brenda. Let's talk about Treasure House.
Let's talk about it.
Down in Arizona.
In Arizona.
Right?
First one in Arizona.
What is it for people who might not know it, and how can they get involved?
So Treasure House is a community living facility for young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. As you know, and some that close to me know, that my oldest son suffered traumatic brain injury when he was 4 months old, and was told he'd be lucky to live and sit up. And he exceeded all expectations and graduated high school. But it was after high school where we're kind of going, now what? What's next for him? He's got a purpose. He's got skills. We look and see disabilities. I look at Zach and see abilities, all kinds of abilities. Just has to be tapped in the right way. And so we went out and said, let's figure out how to build a place where young men and women and families like ours, their children can live, have the independence that they're allowed, also have the supervision that they need, but can be pushed into the community and can grow and can thrive and can have a purpose in life. And so we built our first Treasure House. It opened up about 4 months ago, and I was just there last week, and we've got 8 or 9 residents now as we're continuing to build up. We got a few more coming after in the next couple weeks. But it's just starting to buzz, and they're starting to get out into the community. And it's fun to hear parents talk about the ability to dream for their child with disabilities. And it's fun as a parent to watch my child thrive in a way that, that I never imagined a decade ago. And so that's what Treasure House is. And you can go to treasurehouse.org to get involved. We've got different fundraisers that we do. You can make a donation. You can find out, what we're doing, because we want to get this right. And then we want to take it around the country and around the world, so every family has that opportunity to do that. So treasurehouse.org is where you can go. And appreciate you giving me a minute to talk about it.
Kurt. My pleasure. You and Brenda are awesome. Your family's awesome. And I can't wait to see you later on at the NFL Network.
Awesome. I can't wait either.
Thanks. So what'd you think of your first in-person experience here?
I liked it. This is a pretty big garage you got here. I mean, I thought maybe you were bringing me to your house and I was going to be ushered in the front door. I like it. I like the gear. I like the stuff.
This is an operation.
This is a machine. This is no podcast anymore. It's not a podcast.
Well, Kurt, you've been away a long time. I don't do podcasts no more. That's not true. There's a podcast version of the show.
Yeah.
You're taking that step up. I like it. Can I come back? Can I come back sometime, please?
If you'd like.
I would like that.
Okay, very good. I don't know. I mean, you got a very busy schedule. You just said you're not even going to be in studio for Championship Sunday. Or you got to do the radio. Which one are you doing, AFC or NFC?
I'm not even sure yet. I don't even know, depending, I think, on how it plays out. But
just take it one
I'll be doing the show
at a time.
from location. So I'll be in one of those stadiums probably when it's dark and nobody's there. I'll be talking to you guys. And then I'll be doing the game after that. That's right.
Let's map out to Kurt Warner. All right, at Kurt13Warner on Twitter as well as Instagram. Kurt, I'll see you back at the shop up the street in the NFL Network.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.